Welcome back to Half the Battle. I'm your host, as always, Daniel Levy, your co-host, Shaq. We're going to be talking UFC Vegas 21, Leon Edwards versus Belal Muhammad. And Shaq, it's going down this Saturday night. Tomorrow in Las Vegas, Nevada, you got the number 3 welterweight on planet Earth, Leon Edwards, taking on Belal. Remember the name Muhammad, one of our favorite prospects, finally gets the big opportunity to fight the number 3 welterweight on planet Earth, Leon Edwards. And you know, the winner is going to put themselves in a very good spot in title contention, Shaq.
100%, man. And Leon Edwards, I mean, a lot of people been saying he deserves a title shot. He did beat Dos Anjos his last fight. He has wins over Vicente Luque, Tumenov, some other good names. So let's see what he does this weekend, because his performance against Belal Muhammad is going to let us know if he's ready for that title shot or not. He already fought Kamaru Usman, and Belal Muhammad, I mean, even though he's not the most popular guy, he kind of just creeped into the rankings as of recently. He's been putting in work for a long time, so I'm excited.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And, a nice little or an interesting little tidbit. Did you know that Nate Diaz has fought twice since the last time Leon Edwards fought inside the octagon? It's interesting. It's been a long-ass time since we've seen Leon Edwards, and you know what kind of pace Belal Muhammad's going to push. So we're going to know right off the bat if ring rust is going to be a factor or not, Shaq. So I can't wait to see what happens when these two lock horns, man.
Yeah, 100%, man. Leon Edwards, I mean, out of England, he's got to be the number one guy. Till didn't come through for the welterweight title. So, he's up next. It's unfortunate he didn't get that fight against Tyron Woodley. His fight was the first one to get canceled by all the COVID stuff. So he's finally back. Imagine if he could have got his hands on Woodley before Gilbert and Colby did,
Oh, man, he would have been the guy, but man, it's unfortunate how things work out. But now he's got a main event opportunity. And we're going to break down this whole card start to finish. But first, gotta tell you all something a little bit about our sponsor, Manscaped. So, guys, COVID spring break is right around the corner, and you know what that means. Spring break in your pants. Manscaped is here to ensure that the party in your pants never stops. Even Veronica Corningstone wouldn't say no to this pants party, if you know what I mean. For everyone preparing for a pants party this spring break, I have an exclusive 20% off discount. Use the code BATTLE20 at manscaped.com for 20% off and free shipping. And you don't got to deal with cutting yourself. You got to be ready for those short notice opportunities. You already know how Kevin Holland does it. You already know how Max Holloway does it. You already know how Manscaped sponsored athletes do it. And Manscaped is dedicated to helping you level up your full body grooming game. The Perfect Package 3.0 comes with the Essential Lawnmower 3.0, waterproof cordless body trimmer, which is what I'm holding right now. This thing's fucking badass. Look at that LED light. So there's no more excuses if it's dark or not, whatever. If you lose power, you can still shave with this fucking thing. And that's why I love it. This is the best trimmer on the market for those of you in need of a chest or ball shave. Now, people are saying I got too much chest hair, but the chest hair ain't going. The ball hair, however, let's get rid of it. Their 3rd generation trimmer features a cutting-edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents thanks to the advanced skin-safe technology pioneered by Manscaped. You can also adjust the settings to get a length you like, and you can stay on top of it with almost no effort at all. Don't ruin any vibes this spring break or upcoming summer with some peeking pubes coming out of your swimsuit. Trust me, that's a thing of the past, guys. Be sure to use their crop cleanser body wash to keep your hair and skin, feeling healthy and fresh. For me, it's just, it's the facial hair, right? You know what I mean? Us bald dudes, hey, but we got to smell good up there too. Inside the Perfect Package, you'll find the Manscaped Crop Preserver Ball Deodorant and Anti-Chafing Ball Deodorant and Moisturizer, because we know how painful chafing can be when you're wearing your bathing suit all day. You'll also find the Crop Reviver Ball Toner, a spray-on testy toner that's designed to give your boys a nice little slice of heaven. I can confirm it smells amazing. And for a limited time, subscribers get 2 free gifts: the Shed Travel Bag, which is a $39 value, and the patented high-performance reduced chafing Manscaped boxers. So you guys know the deal. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code BATTLE20 at manscaped.com. Do yourself a favor and always use the right tools for the job. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code BATTLE20 at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use code BATTLE20. Say aloha to your new beautiful balls with Manscaped, Shaq.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself. So go ahead and use that discount code and get you some Manscaped and change your life downstairs, man.
Well, Shaq, let's get right down to business, man, because first up in the welterweight division, we got a matchup between Jason Witt. He's 18-6, and Matheus Semelsberger is 7-2. Currently, they got Matheus Semelsberger minus 120. The comeback on Jason Witt is plus 100. So, Shaq, I think this is a case where we know exactly what both guys want to do. Jason Witt is a relentless wrestler. Matheus Semelsberger, his nickname Semi the Jedi. I mean, the guy seems like a tank for welterweight. It's just a question of, can he touch the chin of Jason Witt before he gets taken down here, Shaq?
Yeah, Jason Witt, he had a good win his last fight against Cole Williams, but we know Cole Williams doesn't belong in the UFC. And Semelsberger also fought a guy who doesn't belong in the UFC. So, I could see why this would appear to be a closely lined fight. But, man, Jason Witt, he's a guy, he's like kind of the veteran. He did capitalize on a couple of young kids on the local scene out there in out there in Missouri, but his style is like, kind of like his game is, based on can he wrestle his opponent or not. And in my opinion, Dan, his stand up is a bit of a liability. I think his chin is very, very questionable. Not only the Takashi fight, which I'll cut him some slack. I mean, that was 1 day notice, but the fight, there were some fights on the local scene, man, where he got wobbled several times. So Semelsberger, he's a big, strong dude, a little green, 100%. He's only got 8-9 fights. He knocked out Pardon Shock, had a good 3-round performance against Minus, which a fight which was also on short notice. But I just think Semelsberger is the higher ceiling fighter. I think Witt, this is what he is. It's either can he wrestle or not. I think Semelsberger is strong enough, good enough takedown defense to stuff these takedowns and make him pay. I think at some point Semelsberger will clip him and he will get dropped. And it'll probably go 3 rounds because Semelsberger's a little green, but I see Semelsberger. I honestly think he could be a higher favorite. I think he's younger, he's fresher, higher ceiling. So I'm going with Semelsberger for the win.
The biggest issue here is that Jason Witt has no chin. If Jason Witt had a chin, then you can make a case here, because some of the defensive wrestling I've seen from Semelsberger, I've seen worse, don't get me wrong, but that's why, he's not a bigger favorite here. That's the reason why, because he has been taken down on the regional scene. You got to be worried about what happens if Witt doesn't get touched and Witt can get on top of him. Those are the areas of concern. The thing is, it's not going to take much to knock Witt out. He could lay on Semelsberger the entire first round. They get up for 1 second. You remember that Junior Albini versus Rosenstrike fight? It could be something like that where, he gets laid on, but as soon as they get back up and he touches his chin, the fight's over. So I have to lean with Semelsberger for that reason. I just wish I had a little more confidence in his defensive wrestling, because we know exactly what Witt wants to do. The thing is, I have even less confidence in Witt's chin. So for that reason, I'm going with Matheus Semelsberger here. Now, next up in the strawweight division, we got a matchup between the former Invicta atomweight champion, Jinyu Frey. She's 9-6, and Gloria de Paula is 5-2. Currently, they got Gloria de Paula minus 180. The comeback on Jinyu Frey is plus 155. So, Shaq, what's funny? I've heard a lot of people talking about this whole experience thing, about how Jinyu Frey is so much more experienced than Gloria de Paula. And listen, it's facts, right? She won the Invicta title. She's, had, more than double the fights. I get that. However, you could have used the exact same argument when she fought Kay Hansen, who only had 9 pro fights. You could use the exact same argument when she fought Loma Lukbumi, who only had 6 pro fights. Now she's up there with someone who's had 7 pro fights. So the experience thing, I don't even give a shit about that. I'm throwing that out the window just for the sole fact that I just saw Jinyu Frey lose to 2 significantly less experienced opponents back to back. Now you bring up, now we got to talk about how they match up stylistically. Jinyu Frey is kind of like a patient counter fighter. She's got a decent left hand, and if you don't throw back at her and you kind of just, have a staring contest with her, that's where she's going to excel, and maybe she can get a takedown or two. The difference here, though, is the aggression, the willingness to go forward of Gloria de Paula. And basically, I've heard a lot of comparisons to her girlfriend, Mayra Shitara Bueno Silva, and they do have a lot in common just in terms of how aggressive they are. They come from that shoot-a-box style, but I'd actually say that Gloria de Paula might have the cleaner strikes of the two, and her takedown defense is slightly better than her girlfriend Mayra Shitara. So I actually think that Gloria de Paula is going to come out here and double up Jinyu Frey on strikes and just win this fight because she is better. But if you take skills away and you talk about heart, man, I think Gloria de Paula wants this more. And I like the fact that, you know, she has taken setbacks before, but they were both to UFC opponents, like people that are in the UFC right now. And you look at some of these other prospects, like you look at like Amanda Ribas. She got knocked out by Polyana Viana on her regional scene. You look at Vivi Araujo. She lost to Sarah Froda on her regional scene. So I'm not holding those losses against Gloria de Paula at all. Like, I think they're irrelevant, because when you're dealing with someone with less than 10 pro fights, they're going to be making these huge leaps every single time they fight. So bottom line, I see that shoot to box style coming out here and roughing up Jinyu Frey, getting her out the UFC. We'd love to have Jinyu Frey in the NFC. I got Gloria de Paula here to get it done. And I think that we're going to have a new power couple in the UFC, Shaq. Yo, you're muted, my man.
Yeah, I just think this fight is pretty cut and dry for Gloria de Paula. You know, she's making her debut. Jinyu Frey, look, she's on the tail end of her career. She's like 35, 36 years old, I believe, somewhere in that range. She's been KO'd stiff before by So Hee Ham, so I see the reasons why she has this hesitation issue. She just holds back. And pretty much all of her fights, I thought she got broken by Kay Hansen. She had a good first round, but I honestly think De Paula might be a little bit more well-rounded than the both of Kay Hansen and Loma. Loma's more of a specialist in the Muay Thai, and Kay Hansen's more of a grappler. But I think Gloria de Paula showed in her Contender Series fight that she could do both aspects very well. She trains with Mayra Bueno Silva, and this is just more of a, like you were saying, a will thing. I think Gloria de Paula just simply wants it more. She's more hungrier. Jinyu Frey, you know, when you get these girls on the tail end of their career, the former Invicta champs, they kind of don't really do that well in the UFC. So I'm going with Gloria de Paula here to just kind of outwork her and push a pace on Jinyu Frey, just like how she fell apart against Kay Hansen and Loma Lumbukmi. I thought that was an even worse performance, and she actually looked in good shape. It was just Loma took it to her and honestly beat her up. So I'm going with Gloria de Paula.
Now, next up in the flyweight division, we got a matchup between Cortney Casey, who's 9-8. She's taking on JJ Aldrich, who's 8-4. Currently, they got JJ Aldrich minus 160. The comeback on Cortney Casey is plus 140. Shaq, I'll let you take this one first, man. You going with, you know, it's interesting because I would say Casey, you know, might actually be the tougher fighter here, but god damn, those questionable decisions she makes and that takedown defense, it's a lot to overcome. So what do you think, man?
Yeah, I've always thought Cortney Casey's been a little flaky. Definitely not the type of fighter betting wise I like to get in business with. Her takedown defense is not very good. She's very plotty. She's very slow. I think she's getting a little older these days too. She's talking about even going up to 135. She was a former 115 pounder. So, you know, I think that she kind of has other interests. I think JJ is just probably, I don't want to say more hungrier, but younger, fresher, more to give. Her losses to Mazo and Macy Barber, you know, all young girls fighting each other, and she got knocked out against Macy Barber, but she did have a good first round. I mean, there is some skill there. She does have a good left hand. As for I just think Cortney Casey is just, I mean, her record speaks for itself. It's not very good. And it's just very hard to trust. I think JJ Aldrich is just younger. She's got more room to improve. As where Cortney Casey, this is what it is. I guess she is the underdog. It could be line closer. It'd be a pick 'em, but I'm gonna go with the younger fighter. I'm gonna go with JJ Aldrich to land the left hand and maybe mix in a takedown or two.
I mean, listen, I can't really debate the points you brought up. They're all 100% true. I'm actually gonna go on the opposite side, but for me to pick Cortney Casey, um, basically I need a few things to happen. I need someone that's not going to shoot for takedowns. JJ rarely ever shoots for takedowns, rarely lands takedowns as well, and I need someone who isn't really the toughest. So if this was a pick 'em, maybe it could go either way, but you know, I've seen JJ standing TKO'd before. I've seen JJ get dominated by Juliana Lima before, and I know you can name me all 8 of Cortney Case's losses and tell me about how shitty your takedown defense, but I already know these facts. I'm just gonna pick Cortney Casey because I think she's got slightly more output, and if there's no takedowns involved, I think she can edge a split. So I'll go with Cortney Casey here, reluctantly. Now, next up in the lightweight division, we got a matchup between Nasrat Haqparast, he's 12-3, and Rafa Garcia is 12-0. I think it's Rafa, actually. He's Mexican, not Brazilian. Currently, they got Nasrat Haqparast minus 420. The comeback on Rafa Garcia is plus 335. So, interestingly enough, Shaq, last week, you know, I was doing a little, you know, I was scouting around on Tapology, and I came by Rafa Garcia. I was like, man, I can't wait to see this guy in the UFC one day. You know, he's beat a bunch of UFC vets. He's undefeated. He's a tough Mexican warrior, comes to fight, not going to go down without a fight either. So I've been waiting for this guy to be in the UFC for a long time. I just wasn't exactly prepared for him to get Nasrat Haqparast in his UFC debut, Shaq. So what do you think, man? I mean, listen, this is not a walk in the park debut, but you know Rafa's got that winner's mentality. So how do you see it going down?
Yeah, I just think he's in over his head on this one. I'm sure the kid will be back and he'll come back and have a better UFC performance. But we're talking about Haqparast, a guy who's knocked out Joaquim Silva, been in there with Dober, been in there. He's just very UFC experienced, and he's still young and he's still improving. So Rafa Garcia, honestly, I just think the skill level in combate that he's been fighting definitely got some good knockout wins, like the last one against LaRue Burley, but it's just a different level of competition, man. I see his style being too predictable for someone like Haqparast. He throws single shots at a time. You know, he overextends on his right hand, and a guy like Haqparast, man, he'll snipe you with that left and counter all day. So I kind of see something like that happening. And you know, he's very tough, but I think that toughness is what's going to get him into trouble here. He likes to take too many you know, punches from these lower level guys, and you know, if that's happening, I see Haqparast getting a KO win here. And Haqparast, man, he looked very good in his last fight against Munoz, who, you know, another guy who wasn't on his level. And I mean, he treated him, he showed him the ropes. I see something similar happening.
Yeah, Haqparast has a fucking nuke of a left hand, man, and his hand speed. And now that he's getting some seasoning in there, he's been in there with some legit competition. I mean, remember what he did to Mark Jacasey. Remember what he did to Neto BJJ. You know, having the loss to a top 15 guy in Dober is just, it's part of the process, man. You know, Rafa has got the false confidence of the undefeated fighter. And when I say false confidence, that's not to take anything away from a true Mexican warrior like Rafa Garcia. I just mean that he doesn't know what it means to lose. And for a lot of people, having an undefeated record, you know, that makes you want to bet on them. For me, it just means he hasn't fought the right guy yet. And granted, he did beat the 2 UFC vets he fought. You know, Esteban Payan finished him how you're supposed to. Humberto Bandone, I thought he clearly beat him too. Now, a lot of people are criticizing Rafa for not destroying Humberto Bandone. And my whole take on that was, well, Humberto Bandone had 4 fights in the UFC and he only got destroyed once, and it was by a legit guy. So I don't hold it against Rafa that he went to a decision with a UFC vet. I thought he clearly won the fight. But back to this, you know, there is some speculation that maybe Rafa could drop to 145 pounds. He has fought there in the past. His last 6 fights, however, were all at 155 pounds. But Shaq, you know how my Mexican warriors get down, man. You know we ain't putting down that pastor. You know we ain't putting down that chorizo. So I understand why he's fighting at 55. And look, he is kind of short. He's definitely stocky, man. He's a big boy. Him getting down to 45 is going to hurt. but I think he can do it with the Performance Institute. But bottom line, I think Nasrat's got the faster hands. I think he's got the more experience. And the fact that Rafa is going to get aggressive and in his face, maybe Rafa can catch him. He's been caught before, but if that doesn't happen, I see Nasrat hitting him with some hard shit, potentially being the first man to knock him out, but for sure being the first man to defeat him. So I'm going to go with Nasrat Haqparast to get it done. Now, next up in the bantamweight division, we got a matchup between Rani Yahya, he's 26-10, and Ray the Judge Rodriguez is 16-7. Currently, they got Rani Yahya minus 280. The comeback on Ray Rodriguez is plus 240. So they call him the Judge because he doesn't like to let fights go to the distance. He wants to be the judge. And from what I've seen from him, it seems like he's got some decent knockout power, but I've been hearing people talk about how he's got some kind of grappling background of his own. Then I go back and I watch that Gravely fight where he was taken down with ease. I see that Boom Kelleher fight where, he shot in on him. I get it. It was a day notice, to cut weight on a day. Like, maybe he wasn't thinking clearly, but that was kind of a bonehead move to shoot in head first against a guy with, one of his best moves is the guillotine. So I really think this is a case where Ronnie probably takes him down one time. The fight is over shortly after. However, the thing you got to be careful with Rani Yahya is that if he runs you through that early submission series and he can't get you out of there, you know how Shaq and I like to talk about that Brazilian mummy? He will gas out to a point where he will become a walking punching bag. So if Ray can survive this first round and a half storm, then Ray could be a live dog. However, gut says Ronnie probably takes him down and finishes him. His submission, his series, his everything. He can pull guard and sweep you. He can take you down traditionally. He can jump on your back, and don't sleep on his stand-up too. He's so confident in his ground game that he's going to sling leather as well. So I do have to go with Rani Yahya here. However, at the live betting, if this goes past the 7-minute mark and you start to see Rani Yahya huffing and puffing, that's where you might take a live bet on Ray Rodriguez. I mean, I cashed on Joe Soto to beat Rani Yahya, but Joe Soto's got a wrestling background. Someone let me know if Ray Rodriguez does. I'm going to go with Rani Yahya via submission here, Shaq.
Yeah, Honey Yahya, he's one of the tough guys to predict because, he could be controlling this fight for 2 rounds, and when things fall apart for him, they fall apart very quickly in catastrophic fashion. I mean, he's very one-dimensional. His last fight against Barzola was a good case of that. Won the first 2 rounds and then got absolutely smashed the last one. Something similar happened with Joe Soto, and he kind of has a history of losing to guys that, kind of when you think on paper really shouldn't, beat him. Joe Soto, Tom Ninimaki. I mean, he's lost to some jobbers before. So, man, I honestly think betting-wise, you could look, like you were saying, if Ray Rodriguez can somehow survive. But, I mean, he doesn't make good grappling decisions, so it wouldn't surprise me if he got tapped out inside the first round. But Honey Yahya, he's hard to trust at that price because you need him to get him out of here early because the late rounds are going to be a big sweat with him, man. He's very small in comparison to Ray Rodriguez. Ray Rodriguez is one of the bigger bantamweight frames that I've seen. He has a win over a submission guy in the past, like Jimmy Flick, but like we said, he doesn't make good decisions in the grappling. So I'll pick Honey Yahya as well, but I honestly think you can be hoping this. I don't want to say Ray Rodriguez is the side to take, but I would not lay that much juice on Honey Yahya at this stage in his career.
And next up in the featherweight division, before we talk about this fight, y'all do us a favor, give us a like on this video, give us a subscribe. We appreciate it. But next up in the featherweight division, we got Charles Jourdain. He's 10-3, and Marcelo Rojo is 16-6. Currently, they got Charles Jourdain minus 245. The comeback on Marcelo Rojo is plus 205. Shaq, so me and you had a conversation about this privately yesterday, but let me just preface this. I'll let you go first. But so the first 3 fights that Charles Jourdain had in the UFC, I mean, Des Green, Duho Choi, Andre Feely, like, hey, those are tough fights out the gate. Then he got a step down against Josh Kulabau, and he was the biggest favorite on the card. He was like minus 650. Ends up getting dropped in the first round, goes to a draw. What's your opinion here? I got to know, man, with with this kid at chalk again?
Yeah, I think Jourdain. Look, I've never been the highest on him, but I will acknowledge. I mean, I think this is just a part of the early growing pains in a UFC career, man. I mean, Josh Kulabau, as far as I'm concerned, only lost one fight to a lightweight, Jalen Turner. I think he was severely underestimated going into that spot. Josh Kulabau had nothing to lose. And yeah, he did get dropped in the first round, and he does get hurt at times, but I think that in this particular matchup against a guy like Rojo, the experience man that could really shine out here. I mean, he's been in there with the likes of Des Green, Andre Feely. I mean, and had good fights with him. I mean, it wasn't like he got completely whooped on. I just think that Kulabau got severely underestimated in that fight because he got absolutely smashed by Jalen Turner. I mean, that was a very one-sided ass whooping between Turner. And I think people just assume that Kulabau was a jobber. Now, this guy, Rojo, he's all right, but like, there's nothing special about this guy, man. I think that he's a tough Argentinian. He comes to bang. His ground game definitely isn't the best. He struggled on the mat several times in his career, but I think that the experience is going to show here for Jourdain, man. He's been in there so many times. He's been in there frequently as well, and I think these rounds at some point are going to pay off. I'm not saying that the kid's going to be top 20, top 25, top 30, but I see him being one of the Canadian featherweights. He has a very exciting style, but more importantly, I think he's going to overwhelm Marcelo Rojo with the volume in the late rounds, with his little cute flying knees and his jump kicks. I think that in the last fight, he overwhelmed Kulabau. He just got off to a very bad start. But like I said, I think Kulabau was severely underestimated. I think he's going to overwhelm Marcelo Rojo in rounds 2 and 3. Maybe the first one is kind of close. He does kind of shell up a little bit. But I just think there's levels to this, and I think that the experience is going to show. So I'm going with Air Jourdain to get the win.
I got to say that Marcelo Rojo lucked out. I mean, listen, he might still lose this fight, but who his original debut opponent was supposed to be? It was supposed to be a future top 5 guy and potential future title challenger, Raoni Barcelos. And that would have been a one takedown, and the fight is over shortly after. Because the biggest weakness has historically been for Rojo on the mat. Most of his losses, all of his losses, or actually most of his losses, are via submission. At least the last 4 since 2014, all via submission. So Raoni was going to have a field day with the guy. Here it's a little bit different because Air Jourdain's never landed a takedown, let alone shot a takedown in his entire UFC career. So, the thing with these Latin warriors is that they come to fight. They got the fighting spirit. It's just their takedown defense isn't up to par. That's what we've learned over the years. But that's not really going to be an issue here. So I actually think, although the experience has to go to Jourdain, and maybe the all-around game has to go to Jourdain, I think this fight might play out a little bit closer, man. I'm worried about what happens if Jourdain starts getting touched a little bit. Because dude, I don't think Kulabau is anything special either. I get it. He fought Jalen Turner. He had no business in there with him. But even prior to that, I wasn't exactly thinking this is some stud prospect. And not that I'm saying that about Rojo either. But what I am saying is that this fight might play out closer than the line indicates. I will side with Jourdain. I think he is the rightful favorite. But I don't know, man. That TKO regional scene is kind of sketchy, man. I'm just not too sold on Jourdain. So let's see what happens. He's minus 250. That's why I'm talking like that. So let's see. I'll pick him via close decision here. Now, next up in the strawweight division, we got a rebooking between Angela Hill. She's 12-9, and Ashley Yoder is 8-6. Currently, they got Angela Hill minus 400. The comeback on Ashley Yoder's plus 300. Shaq, you ready to lay minus 400 on Angela Hill and have her cry robbery again?
No, not at all, man. Look, she already won this fight before. Just too much of a heavy favorite. But yeah, she's the better fighter, more volume. 3 rounds should be better for her coming off the 5-round fight against Karate Hottie. I think that she is overrated though, and Yoder has a losing record, but it's not like she goes to split decision a lot, man. So she went to split with McKenzie. She went to split with Marcos, some other girls. So, I mean, she is in some of these fights, and I do think she's getting a little better. But ultimately, Hill will probably scrape out a decision and just slightly win the rounds. But I think Angela Hill is severely overrated. I don't think she's as improved as everyone claims that she is, and I think that this 7-fight win streak is a bit delusional. But I'm gonna pick her to get the decision win.
Yeah, I mean the fact that Angela Hill has the audacity to say that she beat Yan Xiaonan. Really? Like, okay, saying you beat Claudia Gadelia, even though I know that's not true, even though Shaq knows that's not true. I mean, Claudia won the first round, Angela won the second round, Claudia won the third round. That's 29-28 Claudia. If you really want to hang on to that one, all right, fine, take it. But to act like you beat Yan Xiaonan, like what? So listen, we all think Angela probably wins this fight. She's minus 400 for a reason, this and that. But you cannot lay minus 400 on Angela Hill. She cannot be trusted. All her fights are too close. Now, I think this is going to be a spot where she wins the split decision and Ashley probably cries robbery. But again, if Ashley gets on top of Angela Hill, are you going to be surprised if she comes out here and submits her? I'm not going to be surprised. But at the end of the day, I've seen them fight before. I saw Ashley land 3 takedowns on her in that fight, and Angela was able to deal with it. So I'm going to roll with the person that won the first fight. I'm going to go with Angela Hill, but proceed with caution when you see a minus 400 line on a 12-9 fighter, period. Now, next up in the middleweight division, we got Eryk, your boy Anders. He's 13-5, and Darren, the dentist Stewart, is 12-6. Currently, they got Darren Stewart minus 175. The comeback on Eryk, your boy, is plus 155. So this is an interesting fight, Shaq, because Darren Stewart, we know he hits very hard, sometimes underperforms a little bit, but oftentimes when you don't expect him to, he'll come out here and he'll surprise some people. Now, I do have to say the fights where he surprised people were kind of losses, against Edmund Shabazian and against Kevin Holland, but still to go to, split decisions with guys like that, not a bad look at all. With Eryk Anders, it's definitely been hit or miss, but I got to tell you what, he did the right thing for this camp. Because we were saying, like, dude, that camp in Alabama, you and Walt Harris are like the only guys there. Like, can we please get out of there? And now he went to Fight Ready, which about Fight Ready. You know about Triple C Henry Cejudo. You know about the Bellator champ Patricio Pitbull. You know exactly what these guys at Fight Ready have been doing for their athletes. Do you think it'll make any difference whatsoever here with how Eryk fights? Because we know Eryk's in amazing shape, and we know he's been putting in the work. But in the actual fight, you think now he's going to let it go, or are we still going to see the low output of Anders?
Yeah, I definitely think he made a good move. Fight Ready is one of those few gyms that, when I hear people move to, I actually do take into account, unlike some other places. But Darren Stewart, look, he has been performing better 100%. It's just one of those things from a betting perspective, man. I just still cannot trust him with laying that much juice. I think that he has been performing better, but at the same time, I feel like his skill set is honestly not that much better than Eryk's. I think, yeah, he's been landing a little more, but I think that Eryk has kind of just been what's the word? Just, I don't want to say misled, but we'll see. It's one of those things where I want to see it first before I make a judgment on Eryk Anders. I know he's at this new camp, but I also think there's a chance that he just doesn't have it. And I've been thinking that way for a while, quite honestly, for a while, man, since he fought Khalil Roundtree, even back when he fought Elias Theodoro. But maybe they can fix the volume thing, but more so on Darren Stewart. I think that the narrative that this Kevin Holland fight, look, he did win the last round, but I thought the first 2 rounds he hesitated, and I feel like he makes a bad habit. The first 2 rounds kind of similar like the Shabazian fight, where he really didn't do much. And then he definitely won the last round, but then he wants to cry robbery. And the Maki Patolo fight, I honestly didn't think he looked that good in that fight either. And I think, Maki is kind of a quitter and just kind of, just puts his head in chokes and gets choked out a lot, man. So, look, I'm a pick Darren Stewart, but it's a reluctant pin. I think he could possibly be a sketchy chalk. Not that I've never been high on him. It's just, let's not forget about that Bartosz Fabinski fight. I know it's a different matchup. Fabinski likes to dive on the legs, but just that I feel like on the given day he can be a very mid-tier, low-caliber fighter if he's not focused. But look, Eryk Anders, it hasn't been looking too good, man, because the last fight against Christoph, I do think that was a bad matchup. I think I was on the record to say that I think Eryk Anders is the tailor-made opponent for Christoph Jocko to breakdance against just because of the hesitation issue. But Christoph Jocko is a little higher level than Darren Stewart, in my opinion. I mean, he was in the top 15 at one point. It's just bad when Christoph Jocko is telling you, come on, let's fight. You know, I feel like Eryk Anders was honestly the one trying to stall, but, you know, we'll see what happens. I think it's a dog or pass situation. So I'm going to pick Stewart by split close decision, but we'll see if Anders makes these improvements. But it's one of those things I want to see first, because as of right now, I have not been impressed, and I haven't been impressed for a while.
No, I feel you on that. You know, I do think that a lot of the guys that give him the most problems are kind of, you know, the point fighters like Jocko, like Machida, like Elias, guys that are kind of going to run away from him. Now, I know he lost to Thiago and Khalil. He also took down Thiago 6 times in that fight. I mean, he took that fight on Monday of fight week. It was a week short notice. So my issue here with Darren Stewart is the price. Like, I do think that he has shown, you know, slightly better stuff recently than Anders. It's just, do you really trust him at this price? Because like when we really review all the fights, like basically he is what we call a hit or miss fighter. Darren Stewart is, because on one night he can knock out Francimar Barros in the first round. Then you match them up again, and he'll literally lay an egg and lose a decision. And yeah, okay, that was 2016, 2017. But can we all agree that at any point in Darren Stewart's career, he's always going to be the more athletic and faster guy than Francimar Barroso, no matter the occasion? So basically what I'm trying to say is that one night he can come out here, he can knock you out, he can look amazing. The next night he can lay an egg. You watch the fight against Charles Byrd. Charles Byrd was arguably winning the first 7 minutes of that fight. You watch the Bevan fight. Bevan didn't fight. So a lot of these fights are like, it's not even that, you know, Darren Stewart's blowing you away with what he's doing. It's more like the opponents are making big mistakes. Like I thought Maki Patola was kind of touching him up, kind of like he did to Marquez, and then he shot headfirst into a guillotine. And that's not to discredit Stewart. I know he's making improvements. I know he's in his best form. I just still don't really trust him that much. And not that I trust Anders either, but we're not dealing with a 50-50 pick, and we're doing a plus 160 with Anders. And I think that there are paths to victory. I mean, he got 6 takedowns against Thiago Majeda Santos. We know that, you know, no offense to our people in the UK, but we know that UK wrestling is not on par with that USA wrestling. I would not be surprised if Eryk could steal a couple rounds with takedowns here, maybe clinch him up against the fence. He's got to watch out for those elbows if he does that. Look, 50-50 fight, I'm taking Stewart, but at this line, I think it's dog or pass, and I'll actually go with Eryk, your boy Anders, to kind of edge out a very close decision where Darren Stewart underperforms. Now, next up in the flyweight division, we got a matchup between Matheus Nicolau, he's 15-2, and Manel Kape is 15-5. Currently, they got Manel Kape minus 130. The comeback on Matheus Nicolau is plus 110. Matheus is back in the UFC, man. You know, he should have never been released. But, you know, we had a really boring champion named Demetrius Johnson who made 0 efforts to make the flyweight division great. You know, do you remember when Demetrius Johnson was champ and Dana White was like, hey, I know that we created a reality show around you. I know that even that didn't get much attention. How about we do a champ versus champ matchup? You, the flyweight champion, versus TJ Dillashaw, the bantamweight champion, and let's promote the flyweight division that way. And DJ was like, I don't want to fight TJ Dillashaw. I want to fight Ray Borg. And Dana was like, you want Ray Borg? We'll give you Ray Borg. And, you know, that was around the time they got rid of the flyweight division. You know, they got rid of great guys like Matheus Nicolau, who we were like, dude, off one loss, like this guy's a serious prospect. But now, thank God for Henry Cejudo and Davison Figueiredo making the flyweight division great again, bringing that excitement and that violence back to 125 pounds, because now we got Matheus Nicolau back. Now we got guys like Manel Kape. Now we got Raulian Paiva. Now we got Jimmy Flick. All these awesome prospects at flyweight. So I'm glad to see Matheus Nicolau back. So, Shaq, I got to tell you something that Manel Kape said in his interview. So you remember how he was fighting in Japan? They get to wear tennis shoes. You know, the refs got an earpiece, the whole bit. So he said the reason he lost to Pantoja is because he sweats a lot from his feet. And that, man, he was slipping all over the place. And I'm thinking to myself, like, hey, Manel, this ain't Japan where you can wear tennis shoes anymore. So he's still getting used to that UFC's octagon. Matheus Nicolau has been there and done that. I know Matheus, his chin might be in question. You know, it was shin to chin against Dustin Ortiz. So I mean, a clean high kick can rock anyone, but he was knocked out a couple years prior. But that being said, Manel Kape, he's got pretty damn good boxing for MMA. He hits hard. I think his dad might even be a former professional boxer. But Matheus Nicolau is a more well-rounded guy. Matheus Nicolau also has good boxing. Matheus Nicolau is 100% takedown defense. And then when you talk about his jiu-jitsu, that's night and day. Like, this could be a one back take and the fight is over shortly after situation. The biggest concern and why the line is close is because Matheus does not have the best chin. If Matheus had an incredible chin, I think he could be a world champion. But, you know, everybody's got their weakness. But that being said, Shaq, if Matheus does not get caught here, I think he's winning this fight. So I'm going to go with the underdog, Matheus Nicolau. Don't get knocked out, and you win this fight, Shaq. So I'm going to go with Matheus. Yeah, you're muted, bro.
Yeah, I agree to an extent. I think Matheus is the more well-rounded fighter. My concern is, you referring to that Ortiz fight, I don't think it was a clean head kick. I mean, he kind of blocked it. And he still got knocked out. That's my only concern. Is like, you know, he got knocked out by Pedro Nobre as well, viciously. And like I said, I don't think it was I mean, it looked blocked to me, and he still got knocked out unconscious. So I'm a little concerned about that chin. That's my only worry. I like the jiu-jitsu, the wrestling, like you said, the boxing, the left hook, all that good stuff. Manel Kape, I think that his antics play into his fighting way too much. I think that he gets very emotional. He's taken losses to guys like Sasaki, another Japanese guy. He did avenge him in the rematch, but you know, Manel Kape, I think there's a chance that he could be overrated. Now, I know he fought very somewhat close with Pantoja, but I honestly thought it was a weasel attempt that just honestly, like, it didn't work out too well. I thought Pantoja clearly won the fight. I thought Manel Kape had his opportunities, and he did have some good counter striking, some good counters off the low kick. So Matheus needs to be careful. But you know, I think you could make a case of Matheus being the favorite here, but at the same time, I also think there's a chance that the value on Matheus is gone at this point. He is a popular underdog this week. Manel Kape, is this the right time to fade him? He did just go. He fought very respectably against Pantoja, the number 3-4 guy in the world. So he is high level. You know what I'm saying? And Matheus' last 2 fights, he really hasn't been challenged much. He should be fresh. I'm gonna pick Matheus as well, but man, we'll see what happens. It could be a good fight. That chin is definitely a concern. Dustin Ortiz, how many knockouts does he have? The only guys I know he knocked out was Sandoval and Matheus. Who else?
It's probably it off the top of my head.
Yeah, so that was a little alarming to me, and I thought he blocked the kick. So we'll see. I'll go with Matheus as well, though. But it's I'm gonna sit back and enjoy that one.
It was like a one-handed block where it was boom. So I don't know if he blocked it with 2 hands and got knocked out. Then I mean, look, we know he's chinning. That's without a question. But I mean, one-handed block on a head kick, I don't hold that against him. However, I am worried about one of these hooks landing on that chin because you know what'll happen, Shaq. So let's see. But you also saw Kape trying to go for takedowns on Pantoja. We know Nicolau can stuff.
Also, one thing I wanted to say, man, I've seen Kape wobbled several times on that Japanese scene as well by Japanese guys with shoes on. So I think he is a little overrated. But going into the Pantoja fight, I thought he was overrated. But I thought he fought. You know, he showed. Hey, he's a solid top 15 guy. You know, it wasn't like he got his ass whooped. Very competitive 3-round fight. You know,
for sure. Before we talk about these last 4 fights, do us a favor, hit that like button, hit that subscribe. Appreciate it. Now, Shaq, Next up in the bantamweight division, we got a matchup between Jonathan Martinez. He's 13-3, and Davey Grant, the Ultimate Fighter finalist, is 10-4. Currently, they got Johnny Martinez minus 300. The comeback on Davey Grant is plus 230. So I got to say, Martinez has definitely come a long way. He's impressed me a lot. He's putting on size. He's got devastating kicks. And the biggest criticism I had for him, for a lot of people, is the takedown defense, but I think he's got a decent get-up game. But I had criticism about his hands. I thought that, look, he's very kick-heavy. I love his kicks. I wasn't sure about his hands. You saw that fight against Tomas Almeida. He was jabbing. I mean, he was kicking him up too, but he was jabbing Tomas Almeida, no problem. I think his hands are improving. I think all areas of his game are improving. But he's taking on a very experienced guy in Davey Grant, a guy who's got a win over Marlon Vera. Now, granted, it was Ecuador Marlon Vera, not USA Marlon Vera, but he still beat him. He's been in the tough house. He made it to the finals. He's on a 2-fight win streak, Shaq. What do you think, man? You think Johnny Martinez rolls here?
Yeah, Martinez, honestly, I feel like he's on a win streak here. I think he won the Wolf fight. I disagreed with that decision. So Martinez has been doing this thing. Tomas Almeida is definitely not the same guy that he once was. But Martinez handled him very accordingly, man. He dominated that fight. I think Davey Grant, look, I think that there is a chance that, this is the best form of his career. This is probably his last run at things. He's very motivated. A very vicious knockout win over Martin Day as an underdog. I think he was the underdog to Popov as well. But Martin Day and Popov suck, So I think they're both not in the UFC, right? Or yeah, exactly. So
I hear my boy Martin Day's in talks with the NFC right now.
Hey, that'd be nice. We'd love to have Martin, but I think that those guys are not UFC level that he beat, and Jonathan Martinez clearly is. Martinez has paid his dues. He's been, even though the Wolf fight, from what I understand, he actually received a win bonus from that fight. So if Dana White gives you a win bonus, that means you won that fight. So I think he's gonna come in here. Davey Grant's gonna look to wrestle. I think he is one of the, like we did say earlier, the UK guys might not be the best at wrestling, but I'll give Davey Grant some credit. He is one of the UK guys that'll shoot in on that double and do his thing and get some takedowns and hug and grind and do his thing that way. But I just think Martinez, man, is finally like covered in some of these holes in his game. Not to mention Martinez comes from the same home gym as my boy El Guapo. That's where he gets those kicks from. They come from the same home gym in Texas. And they're both out in Factory X now. So that's why they're such expert kickers, man. Whoever taught them how to kick, that guy needs to come forward. So I think he's going to catch Davey Grant at some point, whether it be a left high kick, a straight. I expect Davey Grant to fight tough. I mean, he's 35. This is it for him. Every fight right now is it for him. I'm sure he's very confident after that knockout win. But I'm going to go with Martinez just being the younger, not necessarily hungrier, but just Davey Grant. We've seen it when you really press him and you really make him stand up, he will get floored. Even Martin Day dropped him in that fight, in his last fight. So I think that Martinez will drop him, and when he does, I think he'll get him out of there or just control him for a decision win.
So one thing that I haven't heard too many people talk about is that Davey Grant is coming off a broken jaw in his last fight. So you already know. I think the last guy one of the last guys that you want to make your return against to kind of test how your jaw and your durability is doing is Johnny Martinez. Like I'd want him to take a tune-up fight before, off the broken jaw. So I'm worried about him in that respect. He also did get dropped by Martin Day. A fight prior, he got dropped by Manny Bermudez. He went to a split with Popov. So I respect Davey Grant, very tough guy. I remember watching him on The Ultimate Fighter, but there's almost a 10-year age gap in this fight. I just got to go with the younger guy, the hungrier guy, the faster, more dynamic, and honestly, the better guy. So I think Johnny Martinez has business in the top 15. Let's get past this fight, one more, and then he's right up there. So I'm going to go with Jonathan Martinez via maybe a knockout here, but if it goes to the scorecards, I got him as well. So let's see. Now, moving up to the featherweight division, we got the featured bout between Dan Ige, he's 14-3, and Gavin Tucker is 13-1. Currently, they got Dan Ige minus 155. They come back on Gavin Tucker's plus 135. So, I'm trying to figure out, what was this Rick Glenn fight just simply first L time? Was it kind of an anomaly because he's been back in there, and granted, the level of competition hasn't been that great, but like he's been handling these guys nicely. And in that fight with Billy Q, I know Billy Q might not be on Dan Ige's level, but Billy Q has a lot of similar qualities to Rick Glenn, where like he can take your best shot, he'll keep coming forward the entire time. And Tucker didn't break, man. Tucker's in his prime right now. He's like 34, 35 years old. He's a serious black belt. His striking is on point. His cardio, his output, everything seems to be getting better. But Shaq, this is the biggest step up in competition he's ever had in his entire career. You think he's ready to pass this test?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this fight because Gavin, like you said, he's rebounded nicely from the Rick Glenn fight, and I think that was just a typical case of the vet lesson. Sometimes these kids get carried away, and I remember how Gavin was talking on that fight week. I mean, it was almost as if Rick Glenn didn't exist, and a lot of young guys, they make that mistake. You remember when O'Day Osborne fought Brian Kelleher, or I mean, it happens all the time, man. They get caught up in the whole shenanigans of things, and they pay the price, man. So, man, Gavin Tucker's impressed me these last 3 fights. He beat Justin James. Justin James is definitely not UFC level, but he handled him accordingly. Sungwoo Choi and Billy Q. And the Billy Q fight, what I liked the most was the pace. I think just the volume that Billy Q was coming at him with. I liked the way he dealt with it. He clinched him when it was necessary, took him down when it was necessary, boxed him up, landed some head kicks. And it was impressive because he's a shorter guy. You don't really see shorter featherweights landing head kicks, like especially against guys like Billy Q, who's like 6 foot or close to it. Got to be, right. So Gavin Tucker has impressed me. Dan Ige is a guy, he kind of always exceeds my expectations a little bit. I always think that he's probably going to get beat up like the Edson Barbosa fight, even though I still think he lost that fight. Look, he is tough. He's got a very good coaching staff with Nick Sick and some other guy, I forget his cornerman, some Hawaiian dude that's always with him. They corner him very well in these fights. He's got good IQ, and I think it honestly makes up for the skill gap, because I think in a lot of these fights, he honestly, I don't want to say he's the lesser skilled fighter, but he just finds a way to make it work. And he's a dog, and he kind of explodes into these big left hooks, and his volume is low, but when he goes, it's very hard, and he has drop guys, and you got to be concerned because Gavin Tucker, if there's one weakness kind of similar to Matheus Nicolau, he is chinny, and he will wobble. That's 100%. There's no denying that. So I think that Dan Ige, his volume is very low. He has struggled with lefties in the past, whether it be Arce. I know you remember that Julio Arce fight in his UFC debut. And I've never really truly considered Dan Ige as a top 15 guy. And when you look at the price of things, and you look his fight with Calvin Kattar, the 5-round fight that he just has, there's a chance he grew from that. But man, I don't know. I don't know how to judge that fight. It's either, is Ige really that good? But personally, man, I thought Calvin Kattar underperformed, man. So we'll see what happens. I think this is now or never for Tucker. It's a good recipe. I mean, he's 34, 35. He's in the prime of his career. He's on this win streak. He's the underdog. It's a good price. He was a good price the last time against Billy Q. So that's probably the side I'm leaning towards. I feel like Ige had a good run, but I just always felt that he was kind of overachieving, and that it would kind of come back down to reality at some point. But we'll see, man. Ige is a very tough guy. I just think that Gavin Tucker has the better skill set, more volume, better grappling, positioning. He doesn't find himself on the bottom too much. I've seen Ige at times go to his back in fights against Griffin and Mirsad Bektik and some of these other guys. So I think that Gavin Tucker can capitalize and get the win.
Yeah, I think that I've been, wrongly critical of Gavin Tucker, in the past, and maybe a lot of it has to do with that Rick Glenn fight. I thought that, if you get past Gavin Tucker's early volume and movement, if you can just get to him and chip away at him, I thought that he could be broken. I'm still not sure what happened, but what I do know is he took 2 years off. He's come back. He looks incredible, man. He's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. He's got great footwork, awesome volume. His cardio is on point. Dana said this guy might be a top 15 guy, so that makes me think that, you know, he's been talking with the matchmakers. They know what they're looking at. With Ige, he got to the spot he's in with heart, man. And you got to respect that. He's a true Hawaiian warrior, because, I mean, I can't sit here and say that, you know, his kickboxing is unbelievable or his wrestling's amazing, or he's just a tough, solid guy. Obviously, you know, if he gets on top of you and you're hurt, he can finish the fight. One thing I like about Tucker, though, in that James fight, now I know James, we might think what we think about James, but James does hit hard. He's got a bunch of first-round knockouts. James actually dropped Tucker, and Tucker ends up that same round that he got dropped in a submission attempt. Had there been more time on the clock, he might have got it, actually. Locked in arm triangle. So he can overcome adversity. He's in his prime right now. He's got Faraz with him. He's training with the right people. This might be the recipe for an upset, actually. It's just really what I think is Tucker should be favored here. And Ige, his chance to win is landing one of those big bombs on the chin of Tucker. We've seen Tucker get dropped more than once. So maybe that's the spot that, you know, Ige wins. It's just the minutes, at least the first half of this fight, all the minutes are going to be won by Tucker. It's just, can Ige have that one big fight-changing moment where he swings the momentum in his direction? That's the big question here. But at these odds, I think it's Tucker or pass, and I will take Tucker to win this fight. Co-main event of the evening in the light heavyweight division, we got Misha Cirkunov. He's 15-5, and Ryan Spann is 18-6. Currently, they got Misha Cirkunov -130. The comeback on Ryan Spann is +110. Shaq, I don't really trust either of these guys, to be honest with you. I like them both very entertaining. I have a feeling someone's getting finished in this fight. Probably doesn't go past the first round. It's just who you got.
Yeah, you know, Ryan Spann, his last two fights definitely haven't been a good look. The Sam Alvey fight, you would think he would win that fight by a bigger margin. I think it was the first COVID card, a short notice, but then the follow-up performance against Johnny Walker, almost having him knocked out a couple times, and then he did that. You know, I like to call it his quit position, where he goes against the fence and he gets elbowed on the ear, and then he gets knocked out. He's done that multiple times, and he's been wobbled several times throughout his career, man. I mean, he's had his fair share of stunts. So I look, 100%, I understand the logic of fading Ryan Spann, 100%. The issue here I have with the Cirkunov fight is not with Cirkunov. You know, I think Cirkunov had a good, you know, a nice little win against Jimmy Crute, a submission win. You know, definitely don't see that submission here, but I don't, in terms of the positioning, the scrambling, I think that there's a chance Ryan Spann has better jiu-jitsu than Jimmy Crute, and just better. He doesn't get reversed like that. You know, I think him and Jimmy Crute rushed it. It was a sloppy fight, man. They just came out, started, you know, going on the ground back and forth. I think Jimmy Crute had him a couple shots away from getting out of there. And it's one of those things where Misha Cirkunov, in my opinion, hasn't really shown me anything impressive in a very long time, man. I wasn't impressed by the Jimmy Crute fight. I think that Jimmy Crute is going to turn out to be the better fighter. It's just he was 20, very young in green in that fight, and it showed. I think Ryan Spann, the only issue here is just these little, you know, questionable big blunders, which I understand 100%. But in terms of speed, power, physicalness, man, he has shown me more. I mean, he actually came out and floored Johnny Walker, even though he got knocked out. There's more. I feel like there's more there. I feel like this is a trap, man. I wouldn't fade Ryan Spann with Misha Cirkunov. Somebody else maybe, but Misha Cirkunov's a guy. He's very stiff. He doesn't throw multiple shots. You can see his shots coming in, and he's very stiff. He can time them for big shots down the middle. We'll see what happens. I'm not saying Ryan Spann is some tough warrior or anything like that, but I think that this is a trap, man. I think Spann's going to come out here and knock Misha Cirkunov out, man. I think that in certain fights he can do good, and a stationary target like Cirkunov, I see that happening, and I think he knocks Cirkunov out in the first round. So I'm going with Ryan Spann.
Yeah, I mean, the issue with Spann is he's been knocked out 3 times the exact same way. on takedown attempts with those Travis Brown elbows 3 times the exact same way against Carl Roberson, against Johnny Walker, and then against someone else early on in his career. Like, that's crazy that he hasn't fixed that yet. So, but aside from that, look, I know his chin is super suspect, even in fights that he won, like against Alex Nicholson. Man, like, he was almost done, and then he comes back to win that fight. But you hear what I said. He came back to win that fight. Coming back to win a fight is a quality that Misha Cirkunov does not possess. You put Misha Cirkunov in one bad spot, and the fight is it's guaranteed over. I mean, that Crute fight was guaranteed over, but Crute lost his mind. He was 22 years old. He got swept, and he got choked out. I just see someone with 24 pro fights in Ryan Spann having so much more experience than Crute. Now, granted, if Crute and Ryan fight, I got Crute, but back then, Crute was so inexperienced. Ryan is experienced. So basically, Ryan's only been submitted one time in 24 fights, and you know who was against, right? Robert Drysdale. And for those that don't know, is one of the best jiu-jitsu practitioners on planet Earth. So it's like getting choked out by Rafael Lovato, like Kevin Holland did back in the day. There's no shame in that. I just don't trust Misha Cirkunov, especially at chalk at all. Like, just because he, came back from the jaws of defeat against Crute because Crute pulled an epic stunt doesn't mean we can forget about what happened when he fought Glover Teixeira. Doesn't mean we can forget about what happened when he fought Volkan Oezdemir. Doesn't mean we can forget about what happened when he fought Johnny Walker. So I agree with you. I thought I was going to be the only one on Spann here, and it's reluctant because I don't trust Spann either. I mean, that against Alvey, who's the biggest favorite on the card, he's walking out like he already won the fight. And he almost did win the fight in the first round, but then it got really sketchy. It's just, I question what happens when Misha Cirkunov can't get a first-round finish. He's got a good resume, though. Cirkunov's got wins over Crute, Krylov, and Kutalaba, so he's beat some real guys before. And it wouldn't surprise me if either guy got finished. But since I think this is a coin flip fight, I'll go with the dog. I'll go with Ryan Spann here to get it done. Main event of the evening, Shaq. We got the number 3 welterweight on planet Earth, Leon Edwards. He's 18-3. He's taking on Belal Muhammad, the number 13 ranked, who's also 18-3. Currently, they got Leon Edwards minus 260. The comeback on Belal Muhammad is plus 220. So you guys know I'm a little biased towards Belal here. I mean, I had this kid on the show before he was even in the UFC, and it's turned out to be a friend of the show. And I also love his coach, Lewis Taylor, who unfortunately won't be in his corner this weekend, but instead he's going to have Fortis MMA head coach Saif Sayoud there. So that's good. Leon Edwards, got a lot of respect for him. He's on a huge win streak. He's a very surgical and tactical striker. I remember even before his UFC run back in Bama, the kind of hype he had, the kind of things he was doing to guys. So I bet on Leon Edwards in his UFC debut against Claudio Silva and lost. And then I bet him the next fight against Seth Baczynski, the next one against Paul Pollack. So I'm very familiar with Leon Edwards. I've been a fan for a long time. And ever since his loss to Kamaru Usman, he actually went to the States, started training at AKA, and now Shaq and I used to joke around about, I know it's been a while since we made this joke because he hasn't fought in like 2 years, but we used to joke around how Leon Edwards is Britain's premier D1 wrestler because he's coming out here and wrestling against guys, and it's really awesome to watch. So I think Leon Edwards is a fantastic fighter. I'm going to make the case for Belal. Everybody's going to make the case for Leon. You can hear that anywhere else. I mean, but let me be the guy that makes the case for Belal. I think that Belal pushes the kind of pace that, when you're coming off a 2-year layoff and, you kind of want to get your feet wet, you want to get your timing, you want to kind of ease into the fight, Belal's the wrong guy for that kind of fight. I think Belal's going to get right in his face, is going to immediately get him in the clinch, and I do think Belal's going to land some takedowns in this fight. I mean, I saw Gunnar Nelson take down Leon Edwards and full mount him. I saw Brian Barberena drop Leon Edwards. So despite Leon Edwards being on this big win streak, there are holes in his game. And yeah, there's holes in Belal Muhammad's game too, but he's the plus 220 dog here. So obviously I'm worried at space. Leon's got the reach advantage. He's got the height. He's got those nice straight punches. He's got great elbows off the clinch breaks. So yeah, I'm worried about Belal getting clipped, and Belal will get clipped. I mean, with Belal's style of getting in your face and making it a dirty fight, he's going to get clipped no matter what. However, that being said, I think he's got the cardio to eat those shots. And one thing I heard Belal say that I think is fascinating is that he wants to have the output of Max Holloway, like the output Max Holloway showed against Calvin Kattar, but he also wants to, have at least 10 takedown attempts per fight as well. So he's been upping his cardio and his conditioning to that next level so that he can implement that kind of style because he wants to be a champion. So it's funny because a couple years back, people were saying he should drop the 55s. Now he's put on a little size. He might be a shorter guy, but I think we're seeing something nice with Belal Muhammad here. And if he doesn't get dropped, if he doesn't, have a big fight-changing moment against him, I think he actually controls enough of this fight to win 3 rounds. I think he can come out here, get a decision, and get the biggest win of his career. I think out of all the guys in the top 5, this is actually one of the more winnable matchups for Belal because the presence of danger isn't quite there as much with Leon Edwards as it is with, say, some of these other guys. So I'm going to go with Belal Muhammad to get the biggest win of his career, get the upset, and move into, the top 10 or maybe even the top 5, depending where they want to rank him. I got Belal Muhammad for the upset.
Yeah, personally, I don't think Leon Edwards is as good as advertised. Not saying that he's not good. I just don't think he's as good as advertised. He hasn't fought in a while. The Dos Anjos win was his last fight, and he got the thirds of Dos Anjos. He got it after Covington, after Usman had already put Dos Anjos through the ringer, man. So I think there's a little steam, and I think he comes off as a very entitled guy. This whole deserves, like, guys, these guys be one former champ, and they start making title demands. It's crazy. I think that Leon Edwards doesn't deserve anything, man. I think that look, we'll see how he performs tonight, but his performances have not like, in terms of clear-cut number 1 contender. Maybe say he's next in line because Covington and Burns and all these guys have already fought him, Usman recently. But in terms of his resume, man, it's a little overrated, inflated to me. I think that he beat Vicente Luque, but Vicente Luque, we know. I like Vicente Luque, but we know he's probably never going to be in the championship title picture. Like you mentioned, the Brian Barberena fights in the past. So I think that, this could be a good situation for him just because he's not coming from a layoff to fight a top 5 guy like Covington or Burns or something like that. It could be a good situation. He's fighting the number, 13, 14 guys, somewhere in that range. So look, I'm going to pick Leon to get the win. I think he's the better fighter, especially out in space. Belal doesn't move his head sometimes, and he gets sniped at range. Kind of similar to the Jeff Neal fight. I could see something similar happening. But at the same time, from a betting perspective, it's hard to trust Leon with all the factors going against him. I feel like he's a little bit too comfortable. But hey, he's on this serious win streak, so maybe he deserves to feel that way. But I want to see Leon. I want to see what he does, because if he's losing rounds to Belal Muhammad, I don't want to hear none of this title talk stuff, man. I think that that he needs to beat a relevant 170 or so. We'll see with Belal Muhammad. But yeah, he's going to be my pick to win. But Muhammad, man, he's one of the tougher guys in that division. Very durable, comes forward, mixes it up very nicely. His parries are top notch, in my opinion. And Leon Edwards, you remember that Gunnar Nelson fight, Dan? I mean, I remember in the 3rd round, he started to look for ways out. I remember in the Brian Barberena fight, he was doing, chicken dances. And but his other wins, what was his win over Cowboy Cerrone all that impressive? I mean, from what I remember,
Cerrone was winning rounds.
The last couple of rounds, I was like, I mean, he's good, but he ain't, all that. And let's be honest here, like, for the Leon homers, like, y'all really think he can beat Usman? Like, we already saw how that fight went. Like, hey, but to each his own. Let's give him another chance, and we'll see. But I'll go with Leon, but I think it's a dog or pass situation.
I mean, all 3 of the judges scored 2 of the rounds for Cowboy. Like, it was 48-47 across the board. There wasn't a single 50-45 or 49-46 in there.
Like I was saying, the Gunnar Nelson fight, the Cerrone fight, he definitely pulled off 2 nice ones with Tumenov and Luque, but those are, middle, bottom half of the top 15 type of guys. I'm not convinced this guy's a clear-cut top contender like everyone says, but he's got the opportunity to show us on Saturday. If he's struggling, squeaking out rounds against Belal Muhammad, Look, don't even put him in there with Usman.
We'll put him in there with Chimaev when he recovers. You know what I'm saying?
I love the Chimaev fight.
Yeah, I do as well. Someone in the comments says something about, well, what about Belal's calves? Because, you know, the Lima fight. So here's what I know. What I know is that Belal's been hitting cryotherapy and getting massages every single day since that fight. So I think the inflammation went down within a couple days. Now, granted, if Leon comes out here and kicks that calf a couple times, just by nature, it's going to be debilitating because that's how powerful that move is. But if you think Belal, you know, as soon as the ref says go, that Belal is going to be coming out here with a limp, like that's just not going to be the case, guys. So if Leon beats him, it'll be fair and square, and vice versa. Now, before we talk about the fight to watch and the fighter to watch, do us a favor, give us a like and a subscribe. We truly appreciate it. Now, Shaq, what is the fight to watch for UFC Vegas 21?
My fight to watch is going to be Gavin Tucker versus Dan Ige, the 145-pound division. Dan Ige is a top 15 guy, and he's got the knack for exciting fights. He's coming off that fight with Calvin Kattar. I want to see how he builds off that. And Gavin Tucker, Dana White's been saying that this is one of the Canadian prospects. And the Canadians, man, they're running out of prospects. They got Gavin up here. The Wadu is in the mix.
Jourdain.
Other than that, man, I don't really know, man. It's just up to
Julian Robertson.
Oh boy, it's up to Tucker and Dawadu, man. I think they gotta carry the flag for the country.
For me, my fight to watch is Matheus Nicolau versus Manel Kape. I mean, Matheus Nicolau was my top prospect back when he was in the UFC, and Manel Kape seems to be everyone else's top prospect. So this is going to be a serious showdown between two promising flyweights, and it's going to be a huge win for whoever gets it done, and it's going to be a massive setback for the loser. So for that reason, Nicolau versus Kape is my fight to watch, and not to mention it's going to be very exciting while it lasts as well. Now, Shaq, who is your fighter to watch on Saturday night?
My fighter to watch is gonna be Leon Edwards, man, because I've been having an issue with these guys and these title demands. With, you know, for example, you got I'm not discrediting Charles Oliveira, great fighter. I mean, Charles, I thank you for it. He came through for me against Steve Eryk. But at the same time, look, for example, or even Chandler, these guys beat one former champ, a washed one at that, Daniel. And then you look at a guy like Dustin Poirier, who's had to beat like 3 former champions just to get a interim title fight, you know. And you got Leon Edwards, who hasn't fought in 2 years, who's making all these title demands. And, you know, I don't like how, honestly, Belal as well, how they're both marking out and they're talking about using their time to talk about Covington. But, you know, one thing you can't say about, like, Covington beat Dos Anjos when he was relevant. You know, Covington beat Damian Maia when he was relevant. You know, these guys get the washed up remains and then they make title demands. So I want to see Leon Edwards with all these title demands he's been talking. And I know a lot of people don't like Masvidal for the 3-piece and the soda thing, but at the same time, Daniel, Leon Edwards was talking shit, and he got approached like a man as far as I'm concerned. So I want to see how Leon performs this weekend. He's been talking a lot. So I think Dana already confirmed if he wins, he's getting a title shot. So let's see how he performs. There's a lot of pressure on Saturday night. It might be one of those situations where he feels very nervous. We'll see.
I love that 3-piece in the soda. I mean, talk shit, get hit. You already know what the deal is, Shaq. But let me just say something about that Colby thing. Well, I agree, because when you go on Twitter and you see a clip of Belal talking about Colby, you're like, yo, Belal, we're fighting Leon. Like, what the fuck? But the context is the reporters brought that up. They started bringing up Colby. He just answered the questions that were asked of him. But I get the way they frame it. They make it seem like he went out of his way to talk about Colby. He was asked about Colby. But my fighter to watch is Jonathan Martinez. And this is a guy who's been making big improvements every single time we see him. He's only 26 years old. He's just a kid. And I think he's got potential to be a top 15 guy. So basically, it starts this weekend with Davey Grant. He's got to come out here. He can't just squeak by Davey Grant. He's got to make a statement. He's got to knock out Davey Grant. He does that, and I think he's going to get a nice little prospect showdown his next fight. So for that reason, Jonathan Martinez is my fighter to watch. Well, Shaq, we did it. It's going down tomorrow, Saturday night in Vegas. All our fans, thank you so very much for being here with us. Do us a favor and hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. Thank you. You can follow me at Best Fight Picks. You can follow Shaq at MMA Genius 05. Subscribe to Half the Battle on iTunes, SoundCloud, YouTube, Stitcher, Spotify, all the places where we are available. We'll be back next week for the next card as well. Make sure you hit up our sponsor, Manscaped, at manscaped.com. Use that promo code BATTLE20 for 20% off and free shipping. Hit us up at bestfightpicks.com. And until the next time, let's cash these bets.